All right, so again, Ben Westridge, Tyler Cutsworth here at the Warrior Fitness Center. I'm going to go over some mount attacks. I think that the mount's a really strong position to attack from. Not even just in Jiu-jitsu, in MMA it's way better than side control. For striking and for controlling your opponent. It's a lot easier to take the back from there if you have good ability to take the back. You can attack submissions off either side, so there's a lot of merit kind of to being there. But the problem is that a lot of people don't practice attacking from there enough, and they don't feel comfortable enough in drilling that when they go live it doesn't really work out for them. So kind of to attack some of those positions, we're going to look at what we're doing. So the first thing is that when I'm in mount, I want to attack my opponent's posture, and so there's a few ways I can do that. The first thing that I'll usually do is my feet squeeze together here at his hips, and then I squeeze with my knees a little bit. But the biggest thing is that my feet are squeezing together, and that gives me the best control. The next is that, especially when it comes to striking from this position, I feel that the best way to hold this is to stay somewhat relaxed in the upper body, so that if he starts to move around, I'm not rigidly stuck to a position, because if I am, when he bridges, it's going to force me to the mat. If I'm nice and relaxed and I have good posture, good control of my legs, and I allow my body to move and keep my balance, that frees my hands up to start attacking. So if I want to move up a little bit higher and not be down on his hips where he can attack, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push his wrist to his face. And that's going to start to bring his elbows up. That allows me to start walking a little bit higher, bring my feet to his hips, and be in a better position to control. Now whenever he bridges from here, it's much easier, because I'm not as far down his hips, bridge a little bit, for me to stay up on top and allow my hips to move and my body to stay in a good balanced position. A lot of times though, whenever I'm here, if my partner does bridge a little bit, my weight might go forward. And so when it does, if my weight transfers, the next thing he may do is start pushing on my hips to attack one of the escapes we covered during the mount escape portion. And so when his hands come here to my hips and he starts pushing, I have to clear these grips, because now my opponent's controlling position. So I'm going to reach back and grab near his hand, not at his elbow, preferably at his wrist, and I'm going to pull it up onto my hip and eat that space up. Take that frame away. And I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So I'm going to switch my hands to the opposite side, pull it up while he's pushing, and go. The good thing about this escape is that once he's committed to doing it and I get one arm up, he kind of has to continue pushing on my hip. Otherwise, even if he doesn't, I can use the angle that I'm at to start attacking that arm and get it back up anyway. So if you drill this a little bit, it becomes a lot more natural. Now that I have his arms up, I'm going to keep my weight forward and control him. So now if he bridges from here, I'm not going anywhere. I can stay here and wear my opponent out. This is a good position to start setting up my chokes from, start getting my grips, and make him fight his hands back on the inside. But if we're already here and his hands are on the outside, whenever I come down, I'm not just going to let him get to that position. I want him to have to work for it. So as he starts to work in, a good drill I like to play with here is scooping up an elbow and sitting to the S-mount position, which we're not going to cover in great detail here, but you can kind of see my basic position of getting my first knee nice and high, turning the corner, and trapping both of his elbows. My partner a lot of times knows that he's going to get his arms attacked from here, and he will try to defend one of them. If he defends by, if he defends by putting his arms the original way he had them, I will attack the top side arm. I'll attack at the wrist, bring my knee over his head, and hip into finish by squeezing my knees. I don't like to fall back for the arm bar from here, because I don't want to lose position. Even if I attack from here and I do lose position, I can still sit and attack on top, right? Come back over to mount and reinitiate. But if we're already here and he attacks the other way, or defends the other way for the attack, switch him. I follow along his forearm, and I come under by pulling at his far side elbow and grabbing it. Now I've kind of blocked the near side wrist. If I want, I can also scoop up the same side wrist here. That way if he tries to switch on the way over, I can still have this arm trapped. But from this position, I'm going to switch sides. I always want to attack the top arm, so I'm going to switch to attack the top arm. And now I just come back and I finish. Super easy. Same fundamentals, toes up, knees together, heels in, pull the wrist back and bridge. From this position, because of how I have his arm gripped, it's very difficult for him to turn his arm out, so it's not as big of a concern, but still something to consider. Also, when it comes to mount attacks and arm barring from there, if I do, you know, sit around to attack an arm bar, and I come over and I'm doing all my good fundamentals, you know, I've attacked at the arm. A big thing I see is that people attack here at the elbow. They try to pull the elbow away from the body. Or even worse, sometimes they'll be really extended. They're trying to pull, can't finish the arm bar, you know, guy defends. They start taking their foot grips and pushing, in which case, you know, you kind of lose the arm bar sometimes. So what I do instead is I want to attack at the wrist. That's the best lever for the elbow, is to pull at the wrist and kind of have an opposing force at the shoulder, and then a fulcrum here below the elbow. So I grab at the wrist, and I commit my arm all the way through, and I pull it to my hip. Right, from here, I just recommit, and I'm going to hip up, and I'm going to push the arm through at an angle almost like I'm doing a hip high sweep. I'm going to sit into it real hard and use my hips to turn his arm. Now I fall straight back. Finish the arm bar. Same fundamentals, toes up, heels in, knees together, bridge. And one more idea from on top. Well, actually, we'll go over two more ideas. One more idea on top that we could do from here is kind of like a little bit of a flow drill. And the easiest one is that he turns to his side and he starts pushing. And so when this happens, I want to be able to sit my hips. Because the deal here is that if he's pushing to shrimp and he was pushing on my knee, I can eat that space up with my heel. And this hip switching allows me to start taking his back and sitting to my hip and starting to get underneath him so that I can start seatbelt gripping him. Even if he gets my foot in, this gives me the opportunity to start sitting over and attacking. So we have kind of some different movements we can work from there. And another position that's kind of fun to drill is to take the back from the armbar. So sometimes when we are in this armbar position and I start to sit around and attack, I get to here and this guy has like really solid defense, and I can reach down and grab onto the, I'm going to spread my knees a little bit so you can see, I'm going to reach down and grab onto the far side shoulder, and I'm going to pull him up and get my knee underneath. I can come behind. I'm using my hand that's gripping on the elbow now to reach across and pull my opponent on top of me to start attacking the back. This is the opposite movement that I would do if I wanted to attack the armbar from the back. So it's just reversing the process to instead pull my opponent on top and start to secure an attack from here. And there's a few different technical details we can work on from that, depending on how they move and how they defend, but that's the right idea from attacking from top. All right.